How do you make money actually work for you? I think we've all pretty much heard that in order to be successful with money, we have to put it to work for us. But what does that mean, and how do you actually go about doing that? In order to figure out whether or not our money is actually working for us, we're gonna have to follow a couple of simple rules. Number one is net worth, which is our assets or what we own minus our liabilities, has to always go up. And second is our cash flow, which is the difference between what we bring in, or our income, and our expenses, also has to go up. And as long as either one or both of these, net worth or cash flow, are going up, we know that our money is working for us. So for example, net worth will go up when assets will go up. And assets, or the asset value, can go up would be an example of, say, stock prices going up. And a simple way to increase our cash flow would be to increase our income via dividends that are being paid out through the stocks. Growth investing, or passive investing, is one of the easiest, most basic ways to start getting your money to work for you. And this is where you buy shares of index funds or mutual funds and ETFs or even stocks and just let them sit around and grow. And then finally, later on, you sell them for a profit. So if I buy shares of XYZ company of, say, $10 a share and just hold on to it, then after, say, a few years or whenever I feel ready, I can sell it, and ideally and hopefully it will have grown, say, to $15 or more per share. My money has made money by working out, getting buffer, and eating its Wheaties. But the main key ingredient that you're watching are these things right here, which are the prices, or the stock price. And you're making sure that it's gradually going up over time, so that's the way you can sell for a profit. So for growth investing, I'm using VTSAX here on Morningstar. And for an example, I will click on performance. If I scroll down, I'm going to be looking at the 15-year returns, and I'm looking for a range of around 8 to 10%. And I want that 15-year return because that means I'm going to be incorporating both good years and bad years, most likely. This accounts for the 2008 financial crisis. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on risk. And with risk, I'm going to click on the 10 years, or the most amount of time I can get. And under the Sharpe ratio, I want something that it's at least greater than 1. Anything less than 1, and I'm more volatile, and I might be riskier, and I might not be able to get those returns consistently. Anything greater than 1 is ideal. Finally, I'm going to look over on a quote. And with regards to fees and expenses, I want an expense ratio that's around, say, less than 0.1% if I can get it. I want no load. A turnover percentage of around less than 10%. I don't want them constantly changing out the shares and everything, that whatever's in the fund. And the last part is I'm going to click on portfolio. And under cash, I want between roughly 1 to 3%, no more than 3% of the portfolio actually put into cash reserves, because this is money that's just sitting on the sidelines and not actually invested. Another type of strategy is dividend investing, and this is where you take your money and you buy stocks, but not looking at the stock prices, but you're focusing more on the dividends or the income that it produces. This is akin to hiring little recruit managers that go out and bring in more money for you. When I'm looking for dividend paying companies, I'm usually looking for a dividend payout of somewhere between the neighborhood of 3.5 to 4%, what's called dividend yield. And one of the great things about dividend investing is that it creates an extra stream of income, or more income coming in later on. So let's say you decide to put in a whole bunch of stocks into your Roth IRA, or even just a regular IRA, that are focusing on dividends. Well, that means when it's time to pull money out, you now have extra streams of income, and you don't have to sell any assets, unlike you would if you were doing a growth strategy. So head over to tradingview.com and go to Screener, Stock Screener. Right. Click on Dividends. Then over here on this little filters menu, I'm going to type in dividends. I want dividend yields. And I'm going to go above or equal. I'm going to go 4%. 4. And all of these companies over here on the left have dividend yields of greater than 4%. So I'll pick one, for example. Let's do ExxonMobil. So go over to Seeking Alpha now and type in that ticker symbol, so XOM for ExxonMobil. Click on it. It kind of gives you an overview of how the company's doing. Then click on dividends. And then dividend history. I'm going to click on all. And this shows me all the dividends that were paid out through the entire history. And this is what I'm looking for. Consistent, reliable dividends that have been paid out throughout the entire history of this thing having dividends that are gradually being increased over time. And if I look at, say, around 2008 and 2009, right when the financial crisis was happening, this particular company was still pumping out dividends on schedule, and even they were gradually increasing them, just as I like to see. So back to the net worth equation. There's two variables that will increase net worth. Increase A, which we've already done with investing. The other way is to lower, or ideally completely eliminate, all liabilities, which means to become debt-free. The way I kind of think about this is when you're in debt, your money or your dollars are kind of sick in the sense that they can't work for you because they're not feeling too well. And another thing is that they can actually spread that sickness to other dollars in the form of interest payments. Let's say that you owe $10,000 at a 4% interest. For every $100 that I put against the principal of that $10,000, I'm actually going to save myself $4. I would normally have to pay that 4% interest on that $100, but if I remove it by eliminating L, I effectively keep that $4 in my pocket. Because that 4% is always going to be there, this is like I'm making a guaranteed 4% return on my money. So by paying extra on my principal and lowering my debts, I'm effectively paying myself and getting rid of that extra liability, which raises my net worth. And because I'm also saving money on interest by getting rid of the loan, I am effectively curing all of my sick dollars so that now they can go out and start working harder for me. In 2018, the average percentage of people that actually received a tax refund was 73%. And the average amount of that tax return was $2,725. This means that nearly 3/4 of people were sending nearly $227 extra per month to the government on an interest-free loan. Now, as of the filming of this video, we don't have the figures for 2019 right now for the tax season, but let's just use these figures as an estimate. And instead of having this money actually work for them by being invested in the economy, it instead was just gathering dust in an account for the IRS. And this caused them to miss out on one of the greatest years' return for this bull run of this generation. I'm using VTSAX here as an example, but if you scroll down and look actually at the performance history of VTSAX, in 2008, down here is when we had the major crash, and it's been doing relatively well. And then in 2013, we had a 33.5%. That was the largest return. But here in 2019, the return was 30.8%. Over the last decade, 2019 was the second highest returning year that we've had for this entire time. The way that you fix this is you go into your W-4. You remember that form that you filled out when you first started getting hired at that new company? And you make adjustments to basically how many exemptions you're allowed to take. Now, a quick caveat, the government recently just changed this form right here. So they no longer use exemptions. So this is where I would recommend sitting down with a tax professional or an accountant and really figure out how much you need to be taking out so that this way you're not overspending and you have that money with you throughout the year so that you can invest and make work for you. If I was to ask you, what is the greatest asset you can own? What would you say? The greatest asset needs to accomplish two things simultaneously. In order to raise cash flow, your greatest asset needs to do both, raise your income and simultaneously lower your expenses. There is one asset that you can own that will simultaneously do both of these. And that's a home-based business. When you're employed by an employer, you end up taking home what's called a W-2. The schedule for the W-2 looks like this. You work, you pay the government taxes, and you end up getting whatever's left over. The issue is that folks that have W-2s are paying the highest rate of taxes, usually on the order of 25, sometimes to 35% of their total gross pay, and even more depending on how much they make. Think of the months January through March. During these months, you're effectively working for free. And that's if I take 25%, and 25% of the year would be a quarter, or basically January through March. But a home-based business uses what's called a 1099. You work or you bring in money from the business, you get paid, and then you pay taxes on whatever's left over. So just to show you here really quick what I mean, I'm actually right now I'm in my office. This is where I do a lot of the work for the eBay store. So you can see, these are some items right here that I'm selling. I have, the printer and obviously everything for the ink and everything like that. But see these lights over here? These light stands are right here, as well as like ink for the printer. I even have a scale outside. All that stuff is actually all bought with money from the eBay store. And so therefore it all counts as not as a discount, but it all counts as a write-off against the income for the business. So I get to use all that as well as the square footage of this entire room right here based off of the rent and how much square footage this room takes up relative to the entire apartment. So that becomes a write-off, as well as gas that I use for the car when I go driving to Walmart and Home Depot for supplies, as well as to the post office because I make frequent trips there to drop off items. So all of that stuff is actually write-offs against my business income, which means I get to keep more of the income in the long run. And you can start a home-based business simply by flipping items on eBay and creating an eBay store. Or maybe you're really good at arts and crafts and you decide to make something and then you can go ahead and sell that on an Etsy store. Or maybe you have an amazing recipe that your grandmother taught you for pickled brownies or something, and you can go ahead and sell that at a farmer's market once a week. But by having a home-based business, you can simultaneously bring money in the form of profits, because that's what businesses do, as well as lower your tax liability so that this way you have more money to grow your business. I kind of think of it like exercise, always trying to make sure that my dollars are staying healthy and active and constantly working for me to always be bringing up my net worth. Thanks for watching.